one of the festivities dedicated in Ukraine to the Baptist Day of the Kievan Rus and the commemoration day of Prince Vladimir equal to the Apostles. This year, church actions on the occasion of these events have caused an unprecedented commotion in the Ukrainian society. First and foremost, it relates to the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession for peace, love and unity organized by the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. It will be reminded that during July, 2 columns of pilgrims from the west and the east of the country have covered a total of over 1,000 kilometers on their way to Kiev. The reality showed that tens of thousands believers arrived at Vladimir Hill and then to the Kiev Patriarchate to do what the cross procession has always been intended for, common conciliar prayer. This year, Ukrainians have exceptionally prayed for the peace and unity in their country. However, the same people who have been deliberately dispersing ridiculous fakes about the cross procession for the last month via television and internet resources, in particular that its participants intend to make provocations and seize power in the country, continue to show their absurd alternative reality in the Ukrainian society after the end of the event. For instance, advisor to the Mia minister Zoran Shkiriak stated there were as many as 11,000 people at the cross procession, with not more than 4,000 coming to the Lavra. In fact, there were 80 up to 100,000 participants, according to the UOC awareness-raising department. There were from 11 to 12,000 at the peak, maximum. Then at the Lavra, as you could see, there were up to 4,000 believers at most. At the same time, the action of the Kiev Patriarchate called Ukrainian Procession that took place in the streets of Kiev on July 28th, in his opinion, included a great deal more people. Shkiriak estimates it as 17,000 participants. Speaker of the Kiev Patriarchate Evstatia Zarya tells already about 30,000, while certain Ukraine-informed journalist, who alternately names herself now Samakhvalova then Mishchenka, reported 35,000 action participants against 20-30 ones of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Such a dramatic difference in numbers cannot but surprise. Moreover, it is not complicated to calculate the number of participants more or less precisely, at least the people who took part in the so-called Ukrainian procession. Thanks to the copter, this procession can be viewed as a whole. It starts from St. Michael Cathedral and finishes at the monument to Bogdan Khmelnytsky. It can be conventionally divided into two parts. First part: a long and rather stretched-out column consisting of a big number of priests with narrow chains of laymen. If one counts only the latter, 1 to 3 persons fall in average on 1 square meter of this procession. To say so would even be stretching a point. If to project the spot on a Google map, one can see it is about 300 meters long. Therefore, the number of its participants is approximately 400 up to 800 people. Much more concentrated is the other part of the procession, led by Kiev Patriarch Filaret, apparently to produce an impressive picture. One of such striking shots taken virtually at the same place as the video from the copter can be used to calculate the quantity of the participants. As we can see, the width of the column near hierarchs is up to 40 people. A bit further, there are fewer people, there are slots. That's why presumably an average number of participants to the tail of the procession is 30. Its length to the procession tail is 115 meters. On average, the distance between the people moving in the column is about 1 meter. We multiply 30 by 115 and get a round figure of 3,500. Then we add it to the first part and get a result of 3,900, 4,300. Of course, we did not include priests into calculations, but we are talking about the support of the Ukrainian society of the Kiev Patriarchate as a structure, which a greater part of the population of Ukraine is affiliated to, isn't it? A far more complicated thing is to define the number of participants of the cross procession of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Unlike a 23-minute political stroll of the Kiev Patriarchate, the column of the UOC Cross Procession's journey lasted for over 2 hours. We can just analyze our footage featuring almost the entire Lavskaya street, thronged with pilgrims from school number 90 up to the entrance to the Lavra conservation area. The traffic part of this street is 15 meters wide, plus sidewalks and the park alley. It means if to calculate that tightly walking 2 persons together occupy a 1 meter space, the column was nearly 35-40 people wide. The length of the mentioned part of the street is 650 meters. A simple calculation shows that on the video we can see at one time around 23,000-26,000 pilgrims. We did not take account of the UOC priests in our analysis like we didn't do it in the case with the KP procession, just because the UOC clergy passed this part of the street much earlier and are no longer seen on the video. Only laymen keep walking. Certainly this is a small share of the faithful. Neither the head of the column nor its tail can be seen on the video. Yet, based on the footage and our own calculations, it's safe to say that official figures of the overall number of participants of the procession, being 100,000 people, are quite real, while all qualified experts are mistaken, to put it mildly, in their estimates. However, figures for such a sensitive issue as a church one are not primary. Let us take a look at who they are: participants of the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession and the Ukrainian procession of the Kiev Patriarchate. At first, we will recall what a cross procession is. It's a well-known fact this churchly procession appeared as a symbol of the Saviour's way to Golgotha. Each believer who walks in the cross procession, overcoming his or her physical weaknesses and trials, takes part in one conciliar prayer, asking God for something people are unable to achieve on their own. This year it was precisely such kind of cross procession. Orthodox Ukrainians were covering hundreds of kilometers in unbearable heat, praying for peace and union of our country. It's clear that each of those who gathered on July 27th had an icon or a cross. It's easy to notice there were not random or rogue people there. The Ukrainian procession looked completely different. The first thing to arrest attention is abundance of political symbols. This is namely what the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession was unfoundedly accused of. This fact was surprising even for the Radio Freedom journalists, who hardly favor the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. I can see now flags of Svoboda political force. I wonder what role they play here, but I tell you what I see. But the main thing to strike an eye is almost full absence of icons and full presence of national embroidered shirts vyshyvankas. We'll show you two videos simultaneously and suggest that you guess which one features Ukrainian procession and which vyshyvanka parade held in Kiev in 2014. If we made it clear with the visual row, let us move on to audio one now. The UOC pilgrims are singing prayers and church hymns. What are the participants of the Ukrainian procession performing? Glory to the nation, death to the enemies. Glory to the nation, death to the enemies. This European cranberry bush. By the way, this moment is very indicative. Hierarchs of the Kiev Patriarchate knew perfectly well nobody from their parish was going to sing church hymns. Therefore, they thought in advance about the necessary entourage. In front of the column there was a special herald with a loudspeaker producing the concert church music in Ukrainian. Generally speaking, there is nothing surprising about all this. If organizers of the procession removed any association with orthodoxy from its name, what can be said about laymen? True though, Patriarch Filaret announced later there were both Orthodox and unorthodox in his procession, yet he failed to mention what the percentage was. This procession was attended by both Orthodox and unorthodox from the entire country. The fact that plenty of outsiders were delivered by the KP in order to create a mass scene was told by many but hardly believed. However, how can one explain the following fragment of Gromadske broadcast? A reporter comes up to the group of people and asks what holiday they are going to celebrate. None of the four was able to answer this, to be honest, fairly simple question.
Скажіть, будь ласка, звідки ви приїхали сьогодні?
Tell me, please, where are you from and what holiday are you going to celebrate? Nevertheless, such people and their fellow thinkers are doing their best to voice certain ideas planted in their minds by this person. For Ukraine to have one local Orthodox church. Will it be? It will. However, no matter how paradoxical it might seem, the participants of the Ukrainian procession do not have love for those whom they are going to unite with into one local church. Right on the contrary, it is. We are praying for one Ukrainian local church. Being an activist, I personally organized picketing not to allow the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession into Zhytomyr, because it is farce, it's devilish. They are barbarians. May they forgive me, but this is true so far. Moscow Patriarchate. Chill, not warmth, creeps from it. Even though they carried icons, there was no sanctity there. The UOC pilgrims have seemingly different feelings. Peace in the country, peace in a soul, peace everywhere. Appealing to God, praying for peace, getting all Ukrainians united around the Mother of God. To pray for peace. Let it be one big Ukraine as it used to be. Not as it is now, when there is a split and animosity with one another. Only peace and welfare for our children to live happily. One needs to have mutual understanding, to forgive and to shake each other's hands. Under the conception of Patriarch Filaret, the local church is to be created by means of a junction of the UOC communities to his church organization. In this respect, a question arises. Will at least a single participant of the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession want to accede to such a stroll procession next year? Will at least a single participant of the All-Ukrainian Cross Procession want to take a red and black flag or that of Svoboda Party instead of an icon? And to cry out fervently, "Glory to the nation, death to the enemies," instead of singing Jesus' prayer? The question seems to be rhetorical.